Okay. What is this part about? So she's explaining, why do most flowers bloom in spring in temperate climates that have 4 seasons? Okay. What was the reason? Because it needs time to produce seeds and before the cold weather comes. Back to my initial question. Why do most flowers bloom in spring in temperate climates that have 4 seasons? Back to my initial question. What does initial mean? Initial means of the beginning. Do you understand? So the first. Okay, back to my first question. Well, flowers bloom flowers bloom then, since they need to be pollinated and require time to produce seeds before colder fall and winter weather arrives. Flowers bloom then, since means because they need to be pollinated and require time. What does that mean, require? Require means need, alright? They need time to produce seeds before colder fall and winter weather arrives. Simply put, most fruits and berries can't survive in cold weather. Simply put, what does that mean? Simply put means if we put it simply, okay? To say it simply, okay? Most fruits and berries can't survive in cold weather. In fact, sometimes cold snaps in spring may damage or even kill newly growing seeds. In fact, what does that mean? In fact, we use that when we want to emphasize saying when we want to say something that is different from what we have just said. Okay. What does fact mean? Fact means what is true or a piece of information. Sometimes cold snaps in spring. What's a cold snap? Cold snap is a short period of cold or icy weather. Cold snaps in spring. Hold on. What does snap mean? Snap means breaking suddenly with a sharp cracking noise. Snap. So it means short. In spring may damage or even kill newly growing seeds. May damage. What does that mean? Damage means to break or spoil something. Let's go to the next part.
Or even kill newly growing seeds. Of course, not every flower blooms in spring. Let's see. Hydrangeas, lilies, and sunflowers produce no fruit, so they never evolved to bloom in spring. Instead, they bloom in summer. That season's hot weather gives them enough time to produce the seeds that will ensure their survival. Other plants are tough enough to survive early winter frosts, so they bloom later in the year. Also, there are plants such as orchids which grow in tropical climates. They can bloom at any time during the year since the weather is fairly consistent and the risk of damage from cold weather is non-existent. As you can likely surmise from what I've just said, not all flowers bloom at the same time. Each species has its own cycle and timing. The amounts of heat, sunlight, and rain all play significant roles in determining the cycle.
Okay, what is this part about? This part is about some flowers which don't bloom in spring. Okay, and they're talking about the examples. Okay, and what happens to them? Why they act like that? Not every flower blooms in spring. That means, what does that mean? Some flowers bloom in spring, or no flowers bloom in spring. No, I mean, every flower does not bloom in spring. That means some flowers. Hydrangeas, lilies, and sunflowers produce no fruit, so they never evolve to bloom in spring. So these kind of flowers produce no fruit, so they have never evolved to bloom in spring. What does that mean, evolve? Evolve means to gradually change and develop into a different form. Okay? Hydrangeas lilies, sunflowers. You know what a sunflower is. So, I'm gonna just show you a picture of these because hydrangeas are these kind of flowers. Okay, hydrangea. You see that? Hydrangea. Okay, and let's see a lily. See? These kind of flowers are lily. And you know what a sunflower is. Instead, they bloom in summer. That season's hot weather gives them enough time to produce the seeds that will ensure their survival. Okay? So the hot weather gives a lot of time. So blooming in summer is enough. They don't need to bloom earlier. Okay, enough time to produce the seeds that will ensure their survival. What does that mean? Ensure. Ensure means make something sure. Okay. Other plants are tough enough to survive early winter frosts, so they bloom later in the year. Other plants are tough enough. What does tough mean? Tough means strong. To survive early winter frosts. What's a frost? Frost is when the weather is when the temperature is below the freezing point. The ground gets covered with ice crystals. Okay, just a thin cover of ice. That's a frost. Okay. Also, there are plants such as orchids which grow in tropical climates. Orchids. Let me give you a picture of an orchid. Orchid. Okay, orchids are these flowers. Other plants such as orchids which grow in tropical climates. There are plants such as orchids which grow in tropical climates. What does tropical mean? Tropical means relating to the tropics. What is tropics? It's the area between two latitudes around the equator. Okay? And let me draw you a picture so that you can understand better. Hold on. Okay. Oh my God, this is bad. A little adjustment. Okay. Hold on. Can you see this? This is the picture of the Earth, all right? And the Earth rotates around the axis, okay? And there's a line which is the equator that divides the Earth in two, that equally divides, all right? And between these two latitudes, okay, this area right here is called the tropics, and the upper latitude is 23.5 degrees north, which is called the Tropic of Cancer. Cancer means a crab, and this latitude is 23.5 degrees south, which is the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn means a goat. All right, so this is this area is the tropics. So it's an area which is very hot and rain a lot. Okay, which grow in tropical climates. They can bloom at any time during the year since the weather is fairly consistent and the risk of damage from cold weather is non-existent. Oh my god, this is like a rhyming. Consistent, non-existent. Very nice. They can bloom at any time during the year since the weather is fairly consistent. What does that mean, fairly? Fairly means a little or very, okay? It's between that. Fairly consistent. What does that mean, consistent? Consistent means stay the same, all right? And the risk of damage, what does risk mean? Risk means the possibility of an unpleasant thing happening. The risk of damage from cold weather is non-existent. What does that mean? Non-existent. Non-existent means it doesn't exist. Okay? What does exist mean? Exist means it is there. Okay? In the real world. Okay? As you can likely surmise from what I've just said, not all flowers bloom at the same time. As you can likely surmise from what I've just said. What does that mean, surmise? Surmise means guess from. Okay, guess. Not all flowers bloom at the same time. That means some flowers bloom at the same time, but some doesn't. Okay? That doesn't mean all the flowers don't bloom at the same time. It doesn't mean that. Okay? Each species has its own cycle and timing. Each species, what's a species? Species is a class of animals or plants, all right, which have the same main characteristics, okay, and they can breed with each other. Each species has its own cycle and timing. What is cycle? Cycle is a series of events or processes that repeats, okay? That repeats in the same order at all times, all right? Own cycle and timing. What does timing mean? Timing means when something happens, all right? The amounts of heat, sunlight, and rain all play significant roles in determining the cycle. The amounts of heat, sunlight, and rain all play significant roles. Play a role.